Every time I asked my mom who my dad was, she gave me a new lie, a new excuse. He's a deadbeat. You better off not knowing. But deep down, I knew something was missing. I'm 25 now, Black woman, on my way to becoming a nurse, and I needed answers. So I did what my mom never wanted me to do. I found him, and what I uncovered wasn't just the truth. It was a secret so dark, so twisted, it ended in blood. The man I thought never cared, cried when he saw me, and the woman who raised me ended his life. This is the story of how choosing my father cost me everything. So if you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Hit follow on your favorite platform and leave us a comment, because the next story might just change the way you see everything. Don't miss a single twisted turn. Chapter 1. Questions with no answers. I don't remember the first time I asked my mother who my father was, but I do remember the first time I realized she was never going to tell me the truth. I must have been around 8 or 9. I came home from school after a family heritage day where everybody else brought baby pictures, last names that stretched back generations, or stories about their grandparents. Me? I had nothing. Just me and my mom. No old photos. No dad on a birth certificate. Just questions. And when I asked her, real soft, almost scared, "Mommy, who's my dad?" She didn't even look at me. She just said, "Your daddy's a deadbeat." Then turned up the volume on the TV and kept folding laundry. That was the first answer, but not the last. Over the years, I heard so many different stories I stopped counting. He ran off before you were born. He's locked up. You don't need to know why. He's dead. He didn't want you. And the most common one: stop asking about him. You better off not knowing. Each answer felt like a slap, and each time I believed her a little less. But what hurt more than the lies was how fast she'd shut me down. Like just wanting to know was a betrayal. By the time I was a teenager, I stopped bringing it up. I learned to carry that empty space inside me, that big, silent what if. I smiled through Father's Day cards we made in school. I ignored the tight feeling in my chest when my friends posted pictures with their dads on social media. But deep down, I never stopped wondering, what if he wasn't a monster? What if he did try? What if my mother was the one lying? By the time I turned 25, I had built a whole life for myself. I was in nursing school, renting a small apartment, working night shifts at a clinic just to make ends meet. My mom still called me every Sunday, like clockwork, like we were still close. But things had shifted. I was grown now. I wasn't scared of her silence anymore, and I had a reason to ask again. It started with a health scare. One of my instructors asked me to fill out a basic health history form. Cancer, heart disease, sickle cell, diabetes. I realized I had no idea. My mom never talked about our family, not on her side, and definitely not his. I didn't even know my blood type. All I had were blank lines and questions I couldn't answer. That night, I called her. "Mom, I need to know something for real this time. I'm in nursing school. They need my family's medical history. Do you know anything from my dad's side?" There was a pause. Then her voice dropped. "Don't bring him up again. I told you already. You don't need to know nothing about that man." I felt my throat tighten. "But I do. This isn't about feelings or drama. This is medical. I could have something genetic and not even know it." She snapped. "You think you know everything now 'cause you reading books and sticking needles in people? You still my child." And I said no. I hung up. That was the moment something broke inside me. Something that had been cracking for years. I wasn't a child anymore. And I wasn't going to let her lies be the final word on my life. I bought a DNA test the next day. It sat on my desk for a week before I finally opened it. Swabbing my cheeks felt weird, intimate, like I was reaching into my body to pull out a secret my mother never wanted me to have. I mailed it in and waited. 3 weeks later, I got the notification. "You have new matches." There was a list of names, most distant, but one stood out. Close family match, first cousin. Name, Delaney Brown. I stared at it. My hands trembled a little. I didn't know any Browns, but they were from Georgia, a state my mom had mentioned once in a hazy, half-drunk rant when I was 17. I messaged Delaney. "Hi. Sorry if this is random. I just got my DNA results and it says we're cousins. I'm just trying to learn more about my father's side of the family. I don't even know his name." She replied 2 days later. "Hey girl, I've been getting a lot of these messages since I did my test. But yeah, you look familiar. What's your mom's name?" I sent it. 10 minutes later, she replied again. "Wait, you're her daughter? Oh my God. I think I know who your dad is." My heart stopped. "Please, tell me everything." "His name's Marcus Taylor. He's my uncle." I found his Facebook. His profile picture was simple. A man in his 40s with deep brown eyes and a tired smile. His bio just said, "Father, truck driver, blessed." I stared at it for hours before messaging him. "Hi, this might sound crazy, but I think you might be my father." No response for a day. Then 2. Then at 2:13 a.m. on a Friday morning, he replied, "Are you my daughter?" "I think I am." We messaged all night. He told me he had prayed for this day, that he had tried to be in my life, but my mother made it impossible, that when he asked her to marry him, she said no, and when he hesitated to commit, she vanished with me. No warning, just gone. He followed her through 3 states. He paid child support every month for 18 years. He said he sent birthday cards, but they always came back. Return to sender. He said he had a folder in his closet full of unopened letters he wrote me over the years. He cried as he typed. So did I. Nothing in my life had ever felt more right and more wrong at the same time. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, trying to understand how the woman who raised me, who cooked for me, who braided my hair, who yelled at teachers on my behalf, could lie to me for decades. And worse, keep me from a man who loved me from afar The next morning, I called her. I found him? Silence. I took a DNA test. I reached out to a cousin. He's alive, Mom, and he's not what you said he was. She exploded. You went behind my back? You believe some man over your own mother after everything I sacrificed for you? You didn't sacrifice. You lied. That broke her. You want to go play happy family with a man who left us? Go ahead. But you better make a choice right now. It's him or me. The line was quiet. For a second, I thought about being a child again. I thought about the nights she stayed up when I was sick, about the times she held me while I cried after bad breakups. But I also thought about all the birthdays I spent wondering, all the lies, all the fear, and the man who never stopped praying for me. Then I choose him. She hung up, and I felt both free and completely shattered. Chapter 2. The DNA Test. You don't realize how desperate you are for the truth until you taste just a drop of it. After my mother hung up on me, the silence in my apartment felt different, heavier, like it had weight, like the ghosts of all the lies she told were walking around the room, watching me, whispering. I stood there with the phone still in my hand, staring at the screen. She didn't call back. She didn't text. She didn't even block me, which honestly would have made more sense. She just disappeared into her silence like she always did when she wanted to punish me without saying a word. But this time, I didn't feel punished. I felt like I had just cracked open a door that had been locked my whole life, and no matter what was waiting behind it, I wasn't going to shut it again. That night, I opened the DNA test website again. I started reading through every single match, every branch of the tree, every message I had from Delaney, my newly discovered cousin. We hadn't met yet, but her warmth, her curiosity, her honesty, it felt like family already. I sent her another message. Thank you for helping me. I don't even know what to say. I just feel everything, all at once. She replied instantly. You don't owe me anything, girl. I just think you deserve to know where you come from. Uncle Marcus has been through it. He always said he had a daughter somewhere. Somewhere. That word hit me hard. I had always been somewhere to him, not gone, not forgotten, just lost in the fog of my mother's silence. 2 days later, I got a call. It was a Georgia number. I knew it was him. I answered on the first ring. Hello? Is this really you? His voice cracked immediately. Just 3 words, and I could already feel the weight in his chest. This is me, I said softly. There was a pause on the line, then the sound of breath hitching, and then quiet sobs. I've waited 25 years to hear your voice, he said. I prayed every night that I would get to say I'm sorry, not for leaving, because I didn't, but for not being able to fight harder, for not having the money to keep chasing her, for not being strong enough to break through her walls. I sat down on my kitchen floor and let the tears fall. You don't have to say sorry, I whispered. You're the only one who gave me the truth. He told me everything. That he and my mother dated seriously in their 20s. That she got pregnant unexpectedly. That when she told him, He was shocked, but ready to step up. "I asked her to marry me," he said. "I thought that's what she wanted. But she said she wouldn't marry a broke man. And I was broke." She moved 3 weeks later without warning. She didn't leave a forwarding address. She blocked his number. She even changed her last name. I went to her sister's house, tried to find her through friends, through her old job. "Nothing," he said. Then I got a letter in the mail, court papers, child support, and I paid, every damn month. He never missed a payment, but she never let him visit. Every time he'd track her down, she'd move again. "I chased y'all across 3 different states," he told me. "The last time I drove 12 hours straight, pulled up to an apartment, and the neighbor said she moved out a week before." I couldn't speak. My mother hadn't just hidden the truth. She'd erased it. She wrote a whole lie and made me live inside it. We talked on the phone every night after that, for hours. I learned more about myself in those calls than I had in my entire life. He told me I had his eyes, his laugh, his stubbornness. He told me I had 2 half-siblings, a brother named Malik who was 21 and in the Navy, and a sister named Simone who was 18 and just graduated high school. They both knew about me. He had told them everything. They grew up knowing they had a sister somewhere out there. He said, "They just never expected you to find us first." I laughed through tears. Neither did I. And then he said something that broke me completely. "I kept your baby picture in my wallet, the one your mom sent me that first year, before she disappeared. It's worn out now, creased and faded. But I kept it. Every day." That was the moment I realized this man had never stopped being my father. He just hadn't been allowed to be. We planned to meet in person. I booked a flight to Atlanta for the following weekend. My hands were shaking when I hit purchase. I had flown before, but never with a heart this full, or this scared. What if I didn't recognize him? What if it was awkward? What if he regretted meeting me? But none of that happened. Because when I walked out of that terminal, suitcase rolling behind me, I saw him standing there with tears in his eyes and a bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite, in his hands. "You look just like your mother," he said. "But your spirit is mine." We hugged for so long, I forgot what it felt like to not be wanted. That weekend changed everything. He showed me pictures of when he was young, told me stories of my grandparents, both gone now, but full of life and faith when they were here. He cooked for me, introduced me to his wife, who hugged me like she'd known me forever. Simone and Malik video called from their phones. They were shocked, overwhelmed, excited. We laughed, cried, talked about childhoods that should have crossed paths, but never did. He showed me letters he'd written to me over the years, unsent, stacked neatly in a box. Pages and pages of words I'd never read, but somehow always needed. I didn't know where to send them, he said, so I saved them all, just in case. Then came Sunday morning. We were eating breakfast when I got a call from my mother. I didn't want to answer, but something told me to. Her voice was cold. Where are you? Georgia, I said plainly. Silence. With him? Yes. A long pause. You made your choice. I did. Her voice didn't shake, but I heard something in it I'd never heard before. Something too quiet, too still. You think I don't know what this is? You think I'm the villain? No, I said. I think you're a mother who made decisions that hurt her child, and now that child is choosing to heal. You always were ungrateful. She hung up. I exhaled. Marcus looked at me, eyes cautious. Was that her? Yeah. What did she say? Nothing that matters. But in truth, it did matter. Because I heard something in her tone, a kind of finality, like something was closing or breaking. I had no idea what was coming next, but I felt it. And it was already too late to stop it. Chapter 3. Finding Him. I never believed in fairy tales growing up. Not after seeing what love looked like through my mother's version of it. But walking through that airport in Atlanta, watching this man, my father, standing there with a bouquet of sunflowers and tears in his eyes. I almost let myself believe in one. He wasn't tall like I imagined. He wasn't dressed fancy. Just jeans, clean sneakers, and a faded jacket that looked like it had seen some years. But his eyes were soft and trembling, like he didn't know if I was real or a dream he might lose again. Hi, I said. He didn't speak. He just stepped forward, handed me the flowers, and pulled me into the kind of hug that presses your bones back into place. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't forced. It was the kind of hug that said, I've missed you every day of my life. We stayed locked there for almost a full minute, right in front of people coming and going with their carry-ons and roller bags, like the whole world had stopped moving just for us. He finally pulled back, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, and said, You have no idea how long I've waited for this moment. I think I do, I said softly, because I waited too. The drive from the airport was mostly quiet, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a heavy, thoughtful kind of way. He asked about my life, nursing school, what I liked to cook, whether I had someone special. He told me about his truck routes, how he'd been driving long haul for almost 20 years, and how every city sign used to remind him of somewhere I might be. That hit me hard. I kept looking at his profile as he drove, the lines in his face, the slight twitch in his jaw when he was concentrating. I had always wondered who I looked like. Turns out it was him. The same nose, the same eyes, even the same laugh when it finally came out over a joke about Georgia drivers. He took me to a small house just outside of Atlanta. Not fancy, but clean and warm. On the porch were 2 rocking chairs and a potted aloe plant. It felt like something out of a southern memory I never had, but somehow recognized. Inside, everything smelled like lemon and fried fish. His wife, Denise, came to the door with a big smile and open arms. You must be the miracle girl, she said, hugging me tight. "We've been waiting for you." And that's how it started. The weekend I never knew I needed. That first night, we ate catfish and grits, talked until 2 a.m., and laughed like people who had known each other all our lives. He showed me photo albums, pictures of him holding a baby I never saw, of him at age 20 with a tight haircut and a shy grin, pictures of my half-siblings, school plays, vacations I wasn't in, Christmases I never knew happened. I should have felt angry. I should have felt robbed. But all I felt was warmth. Because these pictures were evidence that he had lived, and somewhere in that life I had always been missing, but never forgotten. He opened a box and handed me something wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a yellowed envelope with my name written in his handwriting. "I wrote you letters, every birthday, every Christmas, every time I got paid. I didn't know where to send them, so I just saved them, in case." I held that envelope like it was a piece of gold. My fingers trembled. "Can I read it?" "Of course," he said. Inside were 5 lines. "To my daughter, I don't know where you are. I don't know if she'll ever let you see this, but I love you, always have, always will. I'll never stop waiting. Your daddy, Marcus." The next day, I met Simone and Malik over FaceTime. They were both nervous and smiling so hard, it looked like their cheeks hurt. Simone was bubbly and loud, all dimples and natural hair tied up in a scarf. Malik was quieter, but the moment he heard me laugh, he leaned in closer to the camera and said, "Damn, you really do sound like Dad." We talked for an hour. They wanted to know everything. What I liked to eat, what music I played, what movies I watched. It was like trying to stitch a family quilt out of broken patches and threads we were just now finding. And somehow, it felt right. We planned to meet in person the next month. I couldn't stop smiling. That night, Marcus and I sat on the porch with mugs of tea. The Georgia air was humid, but it carried something soft. He rocked gently, staring out into the dark. "I wanted to hate her, you know," he said. "Your mother." I said nothing, but I never could. She was hurt, scared maybe. I just wish she hadn't made you pay for it. "She used to say you were dead," I whispered, "then said you were locked up, then said you just didn't care." He shook his head. "She was wrong, but I don't blame you for believing her. I would have believed her too." And that's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost time with him. I'd lost trust in myself. All those years I thought something was wrong with me, that I wasn't worthy of love, of showing off to the world, when really, the person I trusted most had hidden me out of spite. "She made me believe you didn't want me," I said. Marcus looked at me, eyes glassy. "I wanted you every day, every minute. There was never a second I didn't want you." The next morning, everything changed. It started with a phone call I didn't want to answer, but I did anyway. It was her. "Where are you?" she asked. "In Georgia," I said without flinching. "You still with that man?" "That man is my father." Her breathing on the other end was tight, hissing like a pipe about to burst. You made your choice. Don't think you can just come crawling back when he disappoints you too. I'm not crawling anywhere, I said. I'm standing for the first time. She hung up. Marcus walked into the kitchen and saw me staring at the phone. Her again? Yeah. What did she say? I hesitated. She said I made my choice. He nodded slowly. You did, he said, and I'm honored you chose me, even if it cost you her. I smiled sadly. I didn't lose her. She let herself go. Later that night, Denise cooked ribs and macaroni. We drank sweet tea and watched an old movie. Everything was calm, peaceful, like the storm had passed. But what we didn't know was that the real storm hadn't even begun. Somewhere across state lines, my mother wasn't sleeping. She wasn't crying. She wasn't processing. She was planning. And what she had in mind was going to change everything. Chapter 4. The Confrontation. I thought choosing the truth would bring peace. I thought that if I stood up for myself, if I finally picked the parent who didn't lie, I'd feel proud, maybe even relieved. But instead, all I felt was dread. A slow, sinking feeling in my stomach that something was coming. Something dark. After I got back to my apartment from Georgia, I felt different. Like something inside me had finally realigned, but everything around me was still crooked. My world had cracked open, but the people in it still wanted me to live inside a lie. I hadn't spoken to my mother in 5 days. No calls, no texts, nothing. That wasn't like her. Silence, yes. Guilt-tripping, absolutely. But vanishing, that was new. And it scared me. Because I knew her. I knew how quiet her rage could get when it was sharpening itself. My mother didn't explode. She waited. Let the knife rust a little before twisting it in. I should have called someone. Maybe warned Marcus. But how do you say, hey, my mom might snap and try to hurt someone? I didn't even know if that was true. I just knew something wasn't right. On the 6th day, she showed up at my door. No knock, just a banging. Loud, sharp, over and over, like she was trying to break the door off the hinges. I opened it, and there she was. Still in her work uniform, still wearing her fake gold hoops. Her lipstick was smeared and her eyes were red. Not from crying, but from something else, something deeper. Let me in, she said. I stepped aside. She walked straight in like she owned the air. Looked around like she was searching for something to insult. Then she turned to me. You look just like him, she said. Her voice wasn't angry yet, but it was on the edge. I crossed my arms. I should. He's my father. She sucked her teeth. Don't you dare. Dare what? Speak the truth? Her jaw clenched. All these years I took care of you, fed you, cleaned up your messes, worked 2 jobs while he sent little checks from wherever he was. He paid child support for 18 years. Her nostrils flared. Oh, so now you quoting him? I took a step forward. I'm quoting the court records I looked up myself. You moved 3 times, changed your number, lied to me for 2 decades. Because I knew what would happen, she shouted, finally letting the rage slip through. What? That I'd love him? She blinked. The silence between us grew fangs. I did what I had to do, she said. You were mine, not his, and you always will be. I'm not property, I whispered. You ungrateful little... She stopped herself, shook her head. Then she looked me dead in the eyes and said the words that made everything else collapse. You want to be his daughter? Fine, go be his daughter, but you can't be both. You want him? Then you don't get me. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She stepped closer. You want his version of the truth? Then pack your things and go live in it. I held my ground. I already chose. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just grabbed her purse and walked out. The next morning, I called Marcus. She came to my apartment. His voice tensed instantly. What did she say? I told him everything. Damn, he muttered. I was afraid of this. Afraid of what? That she wasn't going to let this go. That she wouldn't let you choose without punishment. I paused. She said I had to pick between the 2 of you. I told her I already did. He was quiet for a long time, then said, I'm proud of you. And I cried. Because hearing that from him, from the man I'd been told was a deadbeat, a coward, a ghost, meant everything. He wasn't any of those things. He was my father. And now that I had found him, I wasn't giving him up. We planned a dinner. He was coming into town on a short route and wanted to take me out. Nothing fancy, just a soul food spot we both loved. He said he missed my laugh. Said he wanted to see me in person again, even just for a night. The dinner never happened. Because my mother got there first. I was brushing my hair when the phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Miss Taylor? A man asked. Yes. Who is this? I'm with Atlanta PD. I'm sorry to inform you. The rest of the sentence broke me. They found him at a gas station, shot once in the head, point-blank range, dead before he hit the ground. Surveillance footage showed her. My mother, still in her work uniform, calm, focused. She walked up to him like she was going to talk, then pulled the trigger and walked away like it was just another day. My scream broke something inside me. I dropped to my knees, phone still in hand, chest caving in like it was trying to collapse in on itself. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Denise called me 30 minutes later. She was screaming. Simone was sobbing in the background. Malik's voice was quiet, stunned. He was just getting gas, Denise said. He was coming to see you. My knees gave out again. The funeral was quiet, closed casket. I sat in the front row between Denise and a folded American flag, feeling like I'd been orphaned twice. Once by silence and once by a bullet. He had only been in my life for a few weeks, but it was enough to show me everything I'd been missing. When I stood to speak, my voice trembled. I used to think I was unwanted, I said, but I wasn't. I was stolen, and the man who stole me from him also took him from me. There was no trial yet, just a pending investigation. But I knew what happened, and so did everyone else. My mother was gone. Not legally, she was in custody. But emotionally, spiritually, she died the moment she pulled that trigger. I haven't spoken to her since. Not one word. Not one visit. Not even a letter. I kept his box of letters. The ones he wrote but never sent. I read one every time I feel myself falling apart. Sometimes I sleep holding the first one. And sometimes I play the voicemail he left me just before his last drive. Hey, baby girl, just wanted to say I love you. I'm proud of you, and no matter what happens, just know you saved me. You brought me back. I'll see you soon. He never got the chance, but I found him. And I'll carry that truth until my last breath. Chapter 5. A New Beginning. They say funerals bring closure. Whoever said that never buried someone they were just beginning to know. I stood at the edge of Marcus's grave, clutching a single sunflower in my hand, the same kind he held the first time we met. I stared down at the casket. Dark cherry wood, gold trim, polished until it caught the sunlight like glass. And I didn't cry. I had no more tears left. I had emptied them on the bathroom floor, on my kitchen tiles, into the folds of the letters he wrote me that I now read in the dark when the grief came creeping like a whisper. So now I stood in silence, watching dirt fall onto the box that held the only real father I ever had. I didn't wear black. I wore yellow. His favorite color, the color of joy, he once said. The color of coming home. After the service, Denise invited everyone back to their house. There was food, laughter, people telling stories about Marcus I had never heard before, co-workers from his trucking job, neighbors who said he used to fix their fences and mow their lawns for free, a pastor who remembered him as a man of few words, but deep faith. He always talked about a daughter he couldn't find, the pastor told me, said he didn't know when or how, but God would bring her back, said she'd come when the time was right. He looked at me, eyes kind. I guess the time was right. I nodded, my throat tight. Too late, I whispered. No, child, he said. Right on time. God don't waste nothing, not even pain. Later that night, after everyone had left, I sat on the porch with Simone and Malik. We passed a photo album back and forth, laughing at Marcus's horrible fashion choices in the 90s and cringing at old birthday cakes that looked like kindergarten art projects. I still can't believe you exist, Simone said, like you were out there this whole time. Same, I said. I used to dream I had siblings, I just thought I was crazy." "You weren't crazy," Malik said. "You were waiting." That word again. Waiting. I'd waited so long for answers, for truth, for a name, a face, a family. And when I finally found them, when I finally let myself believe I was wanted, it all ended with a gunshot. But sitting between them, passing photos, leaning into stories of a man we all loved in our own way, it didn't feel like the end. It felt like the beginning. I stayed in Georgia for 2 more weeks. I helped Denise sort through his things. She gave me his trucker hat, the keys to his old pickup, and the letters I hadn't finished reading yet. We found a journal he'd kept hidden under his bed. Inside were entries about me. "She has to be out there. I know she is. I feel it. If I ever see her, I'm going to tell her it wasn't her fault, that she didn't do anything wrong. She was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I never got to tell her." I cried so hard, Denise had to hold me. "You were his heart," she said. "Even when he didn't have you, you were the beat of his heart." I got a call from a detective the following week. They had enough evidence to press charges, surveillance footage, a witness, gunpowder residue. My mother hadn't denied it. She hadn't confessed either. She just sat there in silence, her face blank. They asked if I wanted to testify. I said yes, not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed the truth to have a voice, and that voice was mine. The trial date was set for 3 months later. In the meantime, I returned home, but everything felt different, smaller, dimmer. The apartment I once saw as my safe space now felt like a holding cell. My friends didn't know what to say. Some said things like, "At least you got to meet him before," as if that made it better. Others went silent entirely. But I didn't care, because I wasn't the same person anymore. I focused on finishing nursing school. I used the grief as fuel. The way Marcus used to say, "Keep your foot on the gas, baby girl, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts." I wrote a paper about medical trauma and the importance of knowing your genetic history. I poured my own story into it. My professor called it the most powerful thing she'd read all year. I wasn't just learning how to heal others anymore. I was learning how to heal myself. On Marcus's birthday, I lit a candle by my window and played his favorite Sam Cooke song. I closed my eyes and remembered the sound of his laugh, the way he called me baby girl, the way he looked at me like I was his whole world. I opened one of the last letters he ever wrote and read it aloud. "If you're reading this, it means you found me. And if I'm not there anymore, just know, I never left you, not really. You came from me, you are me, and no matter what happens, you are loved." That letter is framed on my wall now, right next to the last picture we ever took together. Me in a yellow dress, him in that beat-up trucker hat, our faces side by side, finally reunited. People ask me if I'll ever speak to my mother again. My answer stays the same. I've already grieved her, not the woman in the mugshot, but the mother I thought I had. She buried herself in lies, And when the truth surfaced, she chose destruction. I chose love. I chose healing. I chose him. This isn't the ending I ever wanted, but it's the beginning I needed. And every time I put on my scrubs, wrap my stethoscope around my neck, and walk into a hospital room, I carry him with me. Because now I know where I come from. I know what kind of man my father was. And that truth is something no one, not even her, can take from me. Chapter 6. The Final Visit. I never imagined the next time I'd see my mother would be across a courtroom. It was a gray morning in Fulton County. The sky hung low, like it hadn't made up its mind between rain and grief. I sat in the front row, just behind the prosecutor's table, hands locked together in my lap, like prayer wasn't a habit, but a reflex. My heart was pounding, my stomach hollow. This wasn't justice. This was tragedy, and the woman sitting in the defendant's chair, that was my mother. But she didn't look like my mother. She didn't have her usual fire, the sharpness in her eyes, the heat in her voice. She was blank, emotionless, her lips tight, her eyes dull. She wore a light blue jumpsuit and stared straight ahead, never once turning to look at me. Not even when the bailiff said my name. Not even when I stood. The judge asked me to speak. I walked slowly to the witness stand, knees weak, throat dry. "I'd like to say something," I told the court. The prosecutor gave a nod. I looked out at the room. It felt smaller than I thought it would. Too tight for the weight of what had happened in our lives. I grew up with a mother who told me my father was nothing, I began. That he was gone or dead or never cared. But none of it was true. I took a breath. I found him after 25 years, and in that short time, I learned more about myself than I had in my entire life. I learned I was loved, wanted, prayed for. My voice started to shake, but I pushed through. And then he was taken from me, not by illness, not by accident, but by the very person who raised me. I turned slowly toward her. "You took him from me," I said, eyes locked on hers. "And you didn't just take him, you destroyed the one thing I had left, hope." For a split second, her eyes moved. Barely, a twitch, a blink. But she still didn't speak. "I will live with this pain for the rest of my life," I said, "but I will also live with the truth. And the truth is, he was a better parent to me in 3 weeks than you were in 25 years. I sat back down. The courtroom was still. No gasps, no murmurs, just silence. When the verdict came, it felt like the air cracked. Guilty. Second-degree murder. 25 years with no parole. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because somewhere deep in my soul, I had already mourned her. Not the woman in the jumpsuit, but the version of her I used to defend, believe in, even love. The woman who used to sing while braiding my hair. Who used to show up to parent-teacher meetings with fire in her eyes and snacks in her purse. the one who hugged me when I scraped my knee, but stayed silent when I asked where I came from. That woman died long before Marcus ever did. I just didn't know it yet. I got a letter 2 weeks later. From her. I didn't expect it. It came with no return address, just my name, handwritten in her familiar, slanted style, like nothing had changed. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. It was only 1 page. You think you know everything now. You think you found some kind of truth, but you don't understand what it's like to be left. To be alone, pregnant, scared, with no ring and no plan. I did what I had to do to protect you, even if it meant lying. I hated him for not choosing us, for choosing his freedom over family. And when you chose him over me, I snapped, you'll hate me forever, and that's fine. But just know, I loved you in my own broken way. That was the last thing I had left. No apology. No regret. Just a confession wrapped in a justification. I read it twice. Then I folded it and placed it in the back of Marcus's journal. Not because it deserved to be there, but because I needed to contain it. Somewhere. The months that followed were a blur. Grief isn't a straight line. It loops, backtracks, disappears, then hits you again out of nowhere. Some mornings, I'd wake up thinking I heard his voice. Other times, I'd reach for my phone just to tell him something small. A joke, a story, something he'd laugh at. Then I'd remember. And the silence would punch me in the chest all over again. But I kept going, because that's what he would have wanted. And because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from the past. I was facing it. I started going to therapy, something my mother always mocked, but I now saw as survival. I visited Denise once a month. Simone and Malik became more than siblings. They became anchors. We'd video chat late into the night, sharing old family stories, planning reunions, building something real from the ashes. One night, Simone asked me, "Do you think she ever really loved you?" I thought hard about that. "I think she loved what she could control," I said. "But me? I was always trying to escape her shadow. So maybe that's what made her snap." I graduated nursing school on a warm spring morning. I wore a white dress under my gown, just like Denise suggested. She was in the front row. So were Simone and Malik. I walked across the stage, shook hands, and held my degree high. After the ceremony, we all went to the cemetery. I placed my diploma on Marcus's headstone, smiled through tears, and said, "I did it, Daddy. You were right. I kept my foot on the gas." And I swear, for just a moment, the breeze shifted, like he was there, like he heard me, like I wasn't alone. Chapter 7. After the smoke. Some pain never leaves you. It just changes shape. It softens at the edges. It stops screaming. And one day, without realizing it, you wake up and the pain is no longer the loudest voice in your head. It's still there, in the background, but now you're louder. That's how healing started for me. Not all at once, not with some magical sunrise, but little by little, in pieces, in choices, in breath. It's been a year since Marcus was taken from me. A year since I stood in a courtroom and looked my mother in the eye for the last time. A year since I lost the only man who ever made me feel like I truly belonged to someone. But it's also been a year of becoming. I became a nurse. I became a daughter, a sister, a niece, and a friend to a family that should have been mine all along. And I became something else too. Something I never expected. Free. Free from the weight of lies. Free from the guilt of choosing myself. Free from the cycle of silence that held me hostage for 25 years. I live in Georgia now. I took a nursing job in a small hospital not far from where Marcus used to drive his routes. Denise helped me find an apartment. Simone comes over all the time, usually unannounced. With loud music and a bottle of wine, she pretends she knows how to open. Malik visits when he's off duty. He doesn't say much, but when he hugs me, he holds on like a brother who refuses to lose anything else. We're rebuilding, slowly, together. Marcus's truck sits in the parking lot outside my building. I drive it to work sometimes. The seat's too low and the steering's a little stiff. But when I'm behind that wheel, I feel him. Especially on quiet nights, when the roads are empty and the radio hums with his old soul playlists. I visit his grave once a month, not out of sadness, but gratitude. I bring sunflowers. I sit on the grass. I talk like he can hear me, because sometimes I think he can. One afternoon, I brought my diploma and laid it across the headstone again. "This is yours too," I told him. "You believed in me before I knew how to believe in myself." I leaned back against the tree behind his plot and closed my eyes. The wind was warm, the sky wide and clean, and for the first time in my life, I felt full. As for my mother, she writes sometimes, not often. Maybe once every few months. The letters are cold, sometimes rambling, sometimes bitter. Other times, they read like someone trying to rewind a tape that's already snapped. I don't reply, not because I hate her, but because I've made peace with the truth. Some people will never change, only mourn what they lost control over. She lost me, not because I left, but because she wouldn't let me live. And the price of that control was the life of the only man who ever truly loved me without conditions. I think a lot about the word legacy, what it means, what we leave behind, how a person lives on in you, even when their body is gone. Marcus never got to walk me down the aisle, never got to hold grandbabies, never got to hear me call during a night shift and complain about hospital politics or rude patients. But his legacy lives in how I love, how I speak, how I protect the truth, even when it hurts. His legacy is in every patient I treat with kindness, every child I smile at in the waiting room, every time I hold someone's hand and whisper, "You're not alone." Because I know what that loneliness feels like, and I know what it means to finally escape it. Sometimes, late at night, I still play his last voicemail. "Hey, baby girl. Just wanted to say I love you. I'm proud of you. And no matter what happens, just know, you saved me. You brought me back." I used to cry when I heard that. Now, I just smile. Because he didn't die unloved, and I didn't grow up forgotten. We found each other. Even if it was just for a moment, it was enough to change everything. And maybe that's the truth no one talks about when they speak of healing. It's not about erasing what happened. It's about carrying the memory forward with dignity, with courage, with love. I'll never get those years back, but I don't need to, because I got him back. And even though I lost him again, I lost him knowing who he really was and who I really am. I'm his daughter forever. And that's enough.